Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are once again playing as Empire against the Greenskins, this time around on a Glacial Lake. So, for this build, it's pretty kind of similar to the ones I've been running as of late, except I've decided to do a bit of a switcheroo up in the sky and swap out my usual swap out some of my usual additional front line. Usually I bring an extra unit of spears and an extra unit of greatswords in the front line, and decided to swap them out for an Amber Wizard up in the air. And he's got nothing fancy. He's just mounted on a Griffin. He's actually complete melee build here. But I figured that against Greenskins, who don't have very good anti-large options to begin with, they don't have great melee attacks, so they'll struggle to hit even with his low melee defense. And his low melee attack will be good enough against their melee attack or melee defense. I figured he can be good. I guess I should be more accurate with the melee defense. Greenskins have a lot of buffs for melee attack, but when they're unbuffed, they're not that great. So I figured, this guy could be decent. And combined with Boris, you get a whole plethora of debuffs. This is really what I was kind of going here. It was like this wombo combo of leadership break. You've got Crush the Weak, which is -4 leadership. You've got Fear, which is -8, I do believe. You've got Bloodroar, which is another -8. And then you've got Terror, which kicks in at 14. So it's a very powerful combo. You can essentially... Plus, on the charge, you're doing so much damage with Griffin, you can immediately just nuke down your opponent's troops and have them fall apart. So that's what I kind of figured would happen here against my opponent, and we'll definitely see how it plays out in reality. Up on the ground, though, we do have a Jade Wizard with Regrowth, as well as Earthblood, and of course Life Bloom and a Power Stone. Front line, dirt cheap, 2 Greatswords, 2 Spearmen, just to hold the line as long as possible. 4 Reiksguard on the ground, providing my main sort of strike force. I think Reiksguard and Knights of the Blazing Sun are very good choices against Greenskins. They'll trade well with their cavalry, and they'll dumpster most of their infantry except Black Orcs. And then 2 Pistoliers to provide a little bit of shooting support. I've been having a little more respect for these guys lately. I still am not a fan of the unit, but I do think they have a little bit of niche here. And you can see almost immediately I'm trying to zone off these Goblin Wolf Riders. We actually do snag a few there, but they are able to sort of just barely squeeze by with the. You can see that guy just getting jabbed there and surviving. They're able to sort of squeeze by there, though. Unfortunately for my opponent, though, I do snag this unit over here. They are going to be forced to rout, and I'm simply pulling my front line back. I don't want to be engaged, but one unit of Wolf Riders has been sort of shattered. You can see over here, just by proximity, these guys are actually going to terror out. You can see that already their leadership's tanking. They haven't even been charged, and with that little bit of damage they've taken, the Amber Wizard and Boris, I'm actually able to put them into rout. But unfortunately, when I set the Pistoliers to chase them, they're actually going to rally right at the edge. I thought I could chase them off the field, and they're going to start fighting my Pistoliers. Regardless, I was a little worried going into this against my opponent's build, because he does have Azag, who does have Fate of Buna, and I think Soul Blight. If I'm able to recognize it, is Soul Blight. So he's got good debuffs. He's got Wah. He's on this. He is mounted on his on Skullmuncha, his Wyvern. So see, I should know that. This is me right here, Wyvern. But either way, he's got his full plethora of gear here. And he can outrun both Boris as well as the Jade Amber Wizard. So what my opponent probably should have done is run away here, but he decides to fight. Regardless, I was definitely a little worried with that. On the ground, he's got Orc Boys, a front line of mixed of Black Orcs, and some more Orc Boys. A handful of Big Guns in the back to provide some anti-large, never a bad idea. A Goblin Big Boss for leadership. 2 Orc Boar Boy Big Guns in the back, and some extra Orc Big Guns there. So very wide front line, and with this many Black Orcs, my front line really can't hold, and I don't actually have the AP to really go through these guys. Regardless, my opponent does make a bit of a mistake here, and he's going to he's going to fight here a little bit, which he honestly should have just run. You can't win this fight. But in the meantime, my Pistoliers, although they are forced off by the Goblin Wolf Riders, the Reiksguard gets some meaty charge here on the Orc Boys. You can see they drop them by about 1/3 of their HP, just absolutely monster mashing those fools. Unfortunately, over here, I was not paying attention. I thought all of these were Orc Boys, and so I charged in with my Reiksguard, thinking, this is going to be easy peasy. Well, it's going to be anything but, because the Orc Big Guns promptly start putting a whooping on my Reiksguard. So, yeah, don't stay in combat with Orc Big Guns if you've got Reiksguard. But I will, because I'm dumb and I don't pay attention. Over here, the Goblin Wolf Riders will get mopped up by the Reiksguard. Not much to say there. In the front line, you can see the Greatswords were trading pretty well, but then my opponent pops Wah, and things are going to go downhill very quickly. Now suddenly the Greatswords are going to lose their edge, and they're going to get torn apart. Now my opponent did invest in Chevron, so this front line is definitely a little more expensive than it normally should be. But as you can see, it's monster mashing through my front line very effectively. On the periphery, though, things are going much better for me, but due to the fact that everything is so close to the board edge, my opponent is getting terror-outed. A lot of units are getting feared and scared off the map. You can see I'm using these Pistoliers to provide direct support against these Orc Big Guns. And unfortunately for my opponent, because none of these units are fast enough, I'm going to be able to take advantage of that fear, terror, shatter, break these guys, and then chase them off the map. And you can see these orc boys here, or orc big guns here, just wavering. They're you can see just how strong their leadership HP is. They've only lost about 1,000 HP. They've only lost 5 models, and yet they are still routing. And you can see this whole line of orcs has just been completely broken. You can see the bounce of power already shifting in my favor because we've been able to just dominate this flank. Now, granted, elsewhere, the fight is not looking anywhere near as good. Over here, where I played like basically just like a moron and fed my Reichsguard in, they are basically slaughtered. Over here, my Reichsguard is going to be forced into full retreat, and my front infantry line is essentially shattered. They've retreated off the map. Over here, Azag does get a little greedy going after my Jade Wizard, so I'm going to counter with my 2 flyers. Azag really doesn't stand a chance against them. With his terrible melee defense, which is getting debuffed even further by the proximity to Boris, he really doesn't stand a chance. He really doesn't want to be in here. He does lay a bit of a smack on the Amber Wizard because he does have decent melee attack of his own, but he definitely didn't like that engagement there at all, and you can see I'm able to sort of squeeze away with my flyers without too much trouble. On the flanks here, you can see the Orc Big Guns and the Orc Boys getting run down by the Reichsguard. I know I can essentially ignore my opponent. All he's got is this 1 unit of cavalry here to be a nuisance, but he gets a little bit, not even necessarily greedy. He just flies in there and tries to shut down my Reichsguard, which is a good play here, trying to deny me my cavalry if at all possible. So you can see I'm force pathing past him. I really don't want my Reichsguard getting stuck here. Even if you get picked off by Black Orcs here, I'll take that loss if I have to. I really just don't want to be losing an entire unit of Reichsguard here in a pointless fight. But seeing that my opponent is very dead set on chasing these guys, you can see Regrowth is almost topped off this Amber Wizard. We are going to dive in and go chasing after Azag. So we're trying to pressure him off. You can see the Reichsguard squeezes out. And I'm actually able to mop up all these Orc units. And you can see if we throw things into fast forward, there is going to be a little bit of a reformation here of lines. Azag being chased very, very angrily by these guys. What my opponent should have done is really just pulled Azag away at this point. He should have just gone on a lap around the map, essentially. Not engaged Azag into this miserable fight here again, because this is probably my opponent's biggest mistake this game. Is diving in here. I do cast an Earthblood there on the Amber Wizard, and you can see we are pouring fire in with the Pistoliers against the Orc Big Guns, who are very susceptible to that sort of stuff. And I'm going to be able to turn these Reichsguard around, and we are going to be able to go deal with those guys. You can see the Pistoliers just pouring death and destruction into these Orc Boar Big Guns. Their leadership is tanking, and they actually get terrified. Big problem for Greenskins, of course, fear and terror. At this point, my opponent, though, is still, despite the balance of power, if my opponent is able to keep his leadership together, he does stand a bit of a chance. He's got this unit of Orc Big Guns, he's got 3 Black Orcs, one of which is basically top health. So he's not in that bad of a spot, even though things might look grim. If my opponent can hold his ground, and I'm not able to properly cycle charge, he will be able to ground me down, I think. So that is something I was definitely a little worried about here. You can't see his Orc Big Guns here do rally, but they're so low on leadership, and so I'm going to do something a little bit cheeky. I'm actually going to go for a sort of alpha strike here. You can see the Amber Wizard is tip-top. We are going to dive in, hit these Orc Big Guns, and you can see their leadership is going to start crumbling. They've got 21, 17, 5. Just look at the leadership just drop in seconds on the charge, and they are actually just going to break here because of the pressure coming in from Boris, from the Amber Wizard. They're doing a lot of damage. These guys don't have very good survivability at all, and they're actually just going to break pretty quickly. The Reichsguard are going to get a nice meaty charge here into the side of these Black Orcs, who are chevroned up. I do take advantage of that situation to cast another Earthblood. You can see these Orc Boys are actually going to get routed off the map. So with that gone, my opponent has no mobility at this point. You can see my Pistoliers here wheeling around, trying to get sort of cheeky shots in. My Reichsguard is going to pull away. They do lose a few models, but you know what? It's an acceptable loss at this point. And what I really need to do is, at this point, just hammer my opponent from every angle possible and really break his will to fight. So you can see the Black Orcs here, who are just a tiny bit isolated, getting hammered by Reichsguard. Their leadership is still holding pretty strong. They do have immunity to psychology. But we are peppering away. You can see another unit of Reichsguard going after these big guns, trying to cut them off. And what I'm trying to do is basically sort of isolate units off. Reichsguard with decent melee defense, they will hold okay against Black Orcs, at least for a little bit. You can see I'm trying to isolate these Black Orcs, force the rout. You can see their leadership just tanking. And once these Black Orcs start falling apart, you can see the big guns rout to terror. The Jade Wizard at this point is jumping in. Over here, the Amber Wizard is still doing damage, and you can see finally that full rout is going to happen. You can see the Pistoliers just raining death and destruction in. And my opponent's army is actually going to shatter here to army losses. And this is one of those big problems for Greenskins, is that they just struggle to hold together. You can see this unit of Black Orcs was still pretty healthy. I would have had to do a lot more cycle charging. But the Greenskin leadership, especially with the loss of Azag, just failed. Now, I do think this opponent was less won by me than lost by my opponent. Losing Azag for essentially no reason, he could have kept running away around the map. I couldn't waste my time and effort with the Amber Wizard and Boris chasing Azag around the map. I needed them in the fight. So, had my opponent just pulled away with Azag, I think he would have had a good chance of winning out in that battle. in the late game. Especially because Azag could have later come in to try to sort of block me in with his extra mass and that sort of stuff after I'd already been forced to engage, probably. Now, otherwise, I do think it's a pretty fun build. I don't necessarily think it's the right way to go against Greenskins. I simply wanted to try out the sort of Terror combo. It does seem to work. The Terror combo does work well against the Greenskins. But it doesn't work great against, say, Black Orcs, who are, of course, immune to Psychology. I do think you're probably better off just going with a more conventional build, a few more Great Swords. The new Global WoW makes melee-heavy builds a little more risky, because your Greenskin opponent can quickly sort of overwhelm your front line when you really don't want them to. I do think Empire might have some opportunities to match them, though. If you go for a full-on sort of Priest Greatsword build, you might be able to counteract a WoW well enough. Maybe go with Priests, bring Volkmar. Otherwise, go very cheap on the front line, bring a lot of shooting. But the new WoW mechanic has definitely made the Greenskins a much tougher proposition for Empire, much more annoying to deal with, just because it means that the front line fight tends to go very one-sided very quickly. Empire doesn't have any abilities, as far as I'm aware. Not even as far as I'm aware. They just don't. That draw out cooldown. So that's one of the things you'll see, for example, from the Dark Elves or the High Elves. They'll drop a what is it called? An Arcane Unforging on your Lord, which means you either cast your wall right away or you're forced to wait on the cooldown. And the cooldown, of course, only works in melee. Or they'll bring Malekith, and Malekith just flies over you with his weapon, or I think it's Dark Sword, that increases your cooldown by 45 seconds when you enter the range, and it resets the cooldown. But that's not something Empire can do, so it's a tough proposition. So definitely something to watch out for. Regardless, I had a lot of fun. I think the Reichs card and heavy cav builds obviously still very viable. Just I'm not sold on the Amber Wizard. I do think, yeah, it's fun. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe below. If you have any comments, any criticism, anything you'd like to mention, be sure to share it down in the comment section. I will respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.